Liane, you're referred to as the teamwork doctor. How did you get that name? And, what are some of the most memorable challenges you've had to solve? Or
Yeah,
maybe
great question.
diagnose? Yeah.
I get all sorts of nicknames because, and my favorite one now is, when they hear doctor or they hear psychologist or anything like that, people can get, first of all, they think I'm going to be prescriptive or overly somber or serious. So most of the nicknames come from the fact that people meet me and then they need to tell other people like, oh, no, whatever you're imagining, she's not like that. And so the teamwork doctor was just a way of saying like, she's not a lie on the couch and tell me about your mother type of doctor of psychology. So the other one that's come out of that is I'm not a couch psychologist, I'm a water cooler psychologist. So that's another name I get to, just as ways to say it's okay, don't be scared of Liane. It's just not going to shrink your head. It's all good. And so some of the cool experiences, so we work at this, we have a great fortune to be very, very choosy about what work we take now. And so now we only work with leaders who are willing to work with us on creating a high-performing executive team, work with us on how to create a compelling business strategy that creates competitive advantage, and then work with us to help mobilize the next couple of layers of leaders. So we now are very clear about who we want to work with. They have to be very bold and ambitious. They have to be very integrative in their thinking, not think about these things, not think about leadership as distinct from strategy, but in fact, think about all these things as very integrated. And they need to be like brave, because working with Craig and me requires some courage, because we really hold up a mirror to what's going on, and some people don't like what they see in the mirror. So we've had lots of interesting epiphanies and experiences because of that. So first of all, just working with companies that are wrestling with, so we were working with a computer manufacturing company. And this is just a couple of weeks ago, right as the Russian invasion of Ukraine is happening, and as there's some activity happening in Taiwan. And as we're in the conversation, we're just saying, how do these things affect you? And of course, the incredible importance to the entire semiconductor industry and computer industry of what's happening in Taiwan. And so we get to be in a front row seat go back to how I was raised, right? When I get to be in a conversation, which is about how does the invasion of Ukraine and the impact of that on China's attitude toward Taiwan affect your business? You got to understand, I'm in my happy place when I'm, thinking about kind of problems of that magnitude. But then the fun of it is saying, okay, and obviously you can't control any of that. What can you control? And what could we do to increase the resilience of the business? How do we make sure there's agility? So if you have to turn on a dime, like if you think about COVID, we had written pandemic on every environmental context map flip chart for 5 years before the pandemic happened. Every time, what are other things that might happen? Well, there could be a pandemic, but did anyone do anything to be prepared for it? No. So the fun for us is now taking it not just to understand these things happening in the world, but how does a leader deal with that ambiguity and uncertainty? How do we create clarity for our organization about what we're doing and not how do we cope with our own anxiety about that level of uncertainty? So it's like integrating like big global macro issues into business strategy, into something very personal about leadership. That's juicy for me.
That is, it's sort of an all-encompassing, holistic way of working. So you're not just working with one leader, you're working with the entire executive team.
That's right. Yeah. So we work with the entire executive team. I don't do any one-on-one work. And then what happens is in between our sessions, Craig is talking with every member of the team one-on-one, helping them to process, what he learned about them in the sessions, what they can learn about themselves, how they might try different approaches to be more effective. So we've got this tag team that works incredibly well. And it just, I guess the biggest epiphanies for me with teams have been when I realized how conflict avoidant teams really are. And of course, when I say teams, I mean individuals really are. And, we've had moments where you help people get to issues that have been under the surface for literally years. It's not a rare thing to have tears in the room because there are frustrations and resentments and scar tissue that goes back a long way. And if we can help people to have that conversation constructively and once and for all get to the other side of it, instead of being really stuck and constantly trying to avoid or work around that conflict. So that's a great privilege for us. We do a lot of work in that area.
Right. And who do you think needs to take responsibility of those conflicts or many years of maybe just keeping things, under the rug?
Yeah. So the only person who you can control is you. So I think the problem is a lot of people think that, well, if my boss is not going to say anything about it, then who am I to say anything about it? Or if my teammates are fighting between the two of them, I'm just going to mind my own business. And, that's just a good recipe for ensuring you're going to be stuck in the misery for the foreseeable future. So the only person you can change is you. And the team dynamic truly is dynamic. So if you change what you do, so if you're no longer willing to just witness bad behavior and instead you call it out or you engage to try and help two people hear each other better or to stop missing each other, that will change the team dynamic. So I don't think there's any point in pointing fingers at anybody else on the team because you may vent, it may make you feel better for a moment, but it's not going to change your circumstances. So, our approach is very accountability centered. And it's, change what you can change. And you'll be amazed how when you change, it's very hard in a team. If you continually take the high road, it's very hard for other people to keep taking the low road.
Right. Yeah. And have you ever seen those times where it's a leadership issue, but it's often positioned as a team issue, and then the team is put through training after training after training?
You too, eh? Yeah. No, I the other one that's really weird is you'll have somebody on the team and their one person is a performance issue. Their behavior is bad. And they phone us and let's go to Niagara Falls and do a team intervention. And so as you're talking to them, you're like, so we're going to take 10 people to Niagara Falls and spend all this money all to really do an intervention about one person. And they're kind of like, yeah. And so that one person is going to feel 9 people ganged up against them and that you were willing to blindside them with that. And they're like, oh, now that you put it that way. So we do not allow ourselves to be pawns in that game. That's a leader lacking the courage to have the conversation they need to have with the individual. So we vet our projects very carefully to make sure they're not pulling one of those. And because that's just, hey, I'm a leader and I'm going to abdicate my responsibility to manage my team. And would you mind doing the dirty work for me? And the answer is, yeah, I would mind. I ain't doing it.